You weren't supposed to find this. Not here, not now, but you did, and maybe. That was the plan all along. You can't explain why you clicked. You're not even sure how you got here. But there's something about this, a pull, a thread, a quiet vibration deep in your chest that feels like you're not just watching this, you're remembering it. Not with your mind, but with something older, something that's been buried underneath noise, roles, names, labels, distractions. There's a part of you, silent and infinite, that always knew. And right now, that part is waking up. It's subtle at first, like a flicker, like light behind a door you forgot was there. But it's real, and it's getting stronger. You're not crazy for feeling it. You're not imagining things. What you're sensing isn't fiction. It's frequency, a signal meant for those who still hear through silence, through vibration, through the invisible field. Most people would scroll past this without blinking. They're not supposed to see, but you did, because you were tuned in before your mind even realized what was happening. And now that you're here, you can't unhear it, you can't unfeel it. Something already clicked into place. You don't need proof, you don't need to understand. You know, not with facts, but with your entire being. This isn't a coincidence, it's not an accident. This is a moment, a threshold, a door opening from within, and once you step through, you'll start to remember what the world tried so hard to make you forget. You've felt it before, in dreams that made no sense but refused to fade, in the space between songs, in conversations when no words were said but everything was understood, in silence that felt like home. This message was never meant for the masses. It was encoded for the few, the ones who wouldn't stop searching, even if they didn't know what they were searching for. You didn't stumble here, you were called. Pulled by a resonance outside of logic, a signal, buried in the noise, that only the ones with eyes behind their eyes and ears beneath the static would ever feel. And now that you've felt it, you won't forget. You can't, because you've already remembered. You always felt it, even when you didn't have words for it. That quiet disconnect, that low hum of wrongness when everyone else seemed so sure of the script. You played along, you smiled when they smiled, nodded when you were supposed to, but somewhere deep in your chest, something refused to sleep. You walked through crowded rooms feeling like a ghost. You laughed at jokes that never landed. You wore the uniform, spoke the language, did what they said would make you feel normal, but normal always tasted fake on your tongue. They told you to calm down, to not take things so seriously. But you weren't serious, you were awake. And being awake in a sleeping world feels like madness, like you're the problem, like you're broken, but you're not broken. You're just not sedated. You've always seen too much, felt too deep, questioned what others accepted without blinking. And that makes you dangerous to the dream, because once someone sees the cracks in the illusion, it spreads. And the illusion knows it. That's why they tried to shrink you, to shame the parts of you that wouldn't comply. But no matter how much you bent, you never truly broke, because some part of you, the ancient part, never forgot. You came here with something the world didn't know how to hold, and so it told you that you were wrong, that you were too sensitive, too intense, too much. But the truth is, you were never too much. They were just enough to feel you. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to play dead. You're here to remember and to remind. You are the outsider among the asleep, and your very presence is a ripple in the fog. You were never meant to fit their mold. You were meant to break it. And no matter how many times you've doubted yourself, something in you always knew that you were different, knew that you were meant for something more real than this performance. And now, you're not asking for permission anymore. You're simply becoming what you already are. If these words don't just sound true, but feel true, if something in you is stirring, not for the first time, but maybe for the first time this clearly, know this, you are not alone. There are others like you, quietly remembering, quietly waking up, and your voice matters more than you've been told. If you've always known you were different, comment, "I always knew I was different," just so the others can find you, too. They called you too much, too intense, too dramatic, too emotional. But what they really meant was that you were too alive for a world that thrives on numbness. You weren't built to be beige. You weren't designed to dim. You weren't made to fit inside lines, drawn by people too scared to color outside them. You feel everything like lightning in your chest, sharp, sudden, undeniable. You walk into a room and your presence disturbs the sleep. Not because you're loud, but because you're real. You notice the tension others ignore. You sense what isn't said louder than what is. You absorb silence like a language. You read between the gestures, beneath the voices. And it used to make you wonder, what's wrong with me? Why does it all feel so loud when no one else seems to hear it? You've tried to soften yourself, dilute your fire, shrink your reactions. You've tried to blend in, to become easier to digest, less intimidating, less complicated, less emotional. You told yourself to toughen up, to grow thicker skin. But suppression is a slow death, and some part of you refused to die quietly. You were never fragile. You were just wide open in a world that numbs itself to survive. A world that teaches people to suppress what they feel until they forget how to feel at all. Your depth is not a flaw. Your emotions are not a malfunction. Your sensitivity is not weakness. It's radar. It's mirror. It's memory. It's the lightning in your eyes when truth passes through you. It's the ache in your chest when you witness something no one else is naming. And that power, yes, it is power, scared them because it could not be controlled, could not be pacified, could not be made convenient. It asked questions their comfort couldn't answer. It named feelings they'd spent years learning to ignore. So they called you broken because your pieces didn't fit their structure. But you weren't broken, you were breaking through. You didn't fail to fit in. You were never meant to. You were meant to feel the things no one else dared to. Meant to see the cracks in the illusion and remember what's real. Meant to carry memory in your bones and intuition in your skin. You were never here to make peace with numbness. You were born to disrupt it. You are the shattered mirror that shows the real face beneath the mask, and they try to turn that into shame. They told you that your pain made people uncomfortable, that your truth was too intense, that your honesty was too raw. But now you know you weren't too much. They were just too little. You weren't too emotional. They were emotionally constipated. You weren't too honest. They were addicted to illusion. Your sensitivity wasn't a problem. It was a compass. And every time you doubted yourself, every time you tried to cut off pieces to become smaller, something in you held on, quietly, fiercely, patiently, because some part of you, the wild part, the ancient part, knew. You're not here to play dead. You're here to wake people up. You are not a flaw in the system. You are the proof it's malfunctioning. And the more you let yourself be fully felt, fully seen, fully you, the more you create space for others to do the same. You are not broken. You were built for another world. And that world is built through you. Through your presence, through your voice, through the way you refuse to numb down just to be accepted. Through the way you insist on staying alive in a world that begs for your silence. And if you no longer see your sensitivity as weakness, if you've stopped apologizing for how deeply you feel, anchor it with a like, so others know they're not alone. You've felt them, those like you, even without seeing them. That's not fantasy. That's the field. That quiet sense that someone, somewhere, is tuned to the same signal as you. You feel it like a current under your skin, a pull in your chest, a whisper that doesn't use words. You didn't imagine it. That recognition when you cross paths with a stranger whose eyes carried the same question, the same fire. You weren't wrong to feel less alone when you read words that seemed carved for your soul. You weren't dreaming when you heard a song that felt like memory instead of music. There are others, always have been, scattered across cities, across timelines, across lifetimes. Quietly remembering, quietly waking up. You are not disconnected. You are tuning in. This world taught you to question your knowing, to silence your intuition, to mistrust the signals that couldn't be measured. But beneath all that forgetting, there's a grid, a living weave of invisible threads, electric pulses, geometric light. You've felt it, not with your mind, but with your whole being. That tug in your belly, that spark in your skin, that flicker of presence before words are exchanged. That's the field, that's the current. That's you remembering what was never gone. You've always been in it. You've always been one of us. You are not alone. You are one of many whose frequency remembers, and as you open, you begin to resonate with others, with the signal, with the deeper pattern beneath the noise. We don't find each other through effort. We find each other by tone, by vibration, by standing in the truth of who we are and letting that be felt. You don't have to explain your way into connection. You don't have to shrink or translate or prove. You just have to be. The signal is strongest when you stop trying and start trusting. You are already part of the collective current, moving beneath the surface, rewriting the story through presence, silence, breath, and frequency. You've felt it, that shiver of recognition, that internal yes with no visible reason, that moment of being seen without being looked at. So if you felt it, even once, that quiet but electric recognition, that flicker of I know you, without knowing why, that soft but powerful sense of finally, then trust it, trust the field. Trust yourself, you're already connected. You've just been remembering the signal. If you feel the field, comment, I feel the field, and see who else has been here all along. You've felt it, the subtle disturbances, the strange pauses, the moments that don't fit, the clocks that flicker, the lights that hum a little too long, the time that skips like a broken record, and that sensation in your chest that whispers, this isn't quite real, you're not imagining it. You're catching the distortion. The world you knew is no longer linear. What used to feel like a stable sequence now bends, warps, duplicates. There are gaps, glitches, repeats. You think it's just you, forgetting things, losing track of time, misremembering conversations. But it's not. You're witnessing cracks in the pattern. You're becoming aware of the matrix as it shudders. Déjà vu is no longer rare. It's persistent, repeating numbers follow you everywhere. 1111, 333, 404, 144. You walk into a room and feel like you've already had the conversation that hasn't started yet. You remember something that no one else does. People recall events differently, timelines blur, and somewhere deep inside, you know, something has shifted. And you're right, the shift has already happened. And without even knowing it, you've stepped out of the old line. This isn't about superstition or fantasy. This is frequency, quantum dissonance, the invisible rewiring of a grid that was never meant to be permanent. Your nervous system feels it, your dreams echo it. You're waking up in the middle of a dimensional recalibration. You may feel disoriented, like something is behind the veil, but just out of reach. That's because it is. You're not losing your grip. You're starting to see through the illusion. Reality is no longer behaving in fixed, predictable ways because you're no longer only inside the simulation. Part of you, the part that's always known, is sensing to something deeper, more fluid, more real. You're noticing the ripple before the stone hits the surface. You're seeing cause and effect reverse their order. You're dreaming futures that unfold days later. This is not chaos. This is awakening. And you're not alone in this. There are many of us, all quietly noticing the distortions, all quietly realizing time is not what we were told. The grid is softening, the fabric is bending, the story is shifting. So if you've started to feel like reality is rearranging itself in real time, if your perception of time, memory, or causality has begun to unravel, trust it. Trust yourself. And know this isn't a breakdown. It's an emergence. Subscribe if you felt the rupture. If the ticking of clocks no longer feels absolute, you're not alone in this perception. The shift has begun, and you're already inside it. You've spent a long time learning to feel energy, to read the room, to notice the undercurrents, to sense what isn't being said. That's powerful. But here's what they didn't tell you. You don't just feel energy, you broadcast it. You're not a passive observer in this reality. You're a tuning fork, a signal tower, a living frequency. You don't just pick up the vibe, you are the vibe. You shift the field just by standing in your truth, and people feel it, often before they understand what it is they're feeling. The space changes when you enter it. The tone shifts when you speak from clarity. The air responds when your frequency sharpens into coherence. This isn't magic, it's resonance, and whether or not you've realized it, you've been affecting the field all along. You are not just aware, you are the signal. Your body is a transmitter. Your thoughts, your presence, your state, they radiate. They ripple, and that ripple has impact. When you are grounded, others feel safe. When you are honest, others are invited into their own truth. When you hold clarity, others begin to sort through their fog. That's the power of coherence. Your frequency doesn't require words to speak. It doesn't ask permission. It simply is. And when you embody it fully, it creates a resonance that others feel, even if they don't understand why. Think of yourself like a tower of light. You don't chase connection. You emit signal. You don't beg to be understood. You transmit truth. And those tuned to the same channel, they feel it instantly. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to perform. Just stay in frequency. Not everyone will receive it clearly. Not everyone will match it. That's okay. Your job is not to modulate for comfort. Your job is to remain tuned. Because the more consistent your signal, the more the field shifts around you. You've probably already seen it. How your energy affects the room. How people mirror your state. How someone calms down just by sitting next to you. That's not coincidence. That's field influence. When you're off center, the field gets fuzzy. When you return to alignment, everything sharpens again. You've been testing this your whole life, maybe without realizing it. And now, it's time to use it intentionally. You don't have to raise your voice to raise the energy. You don't have to fight to be heard. You only have to be in tune with what's real, and let your presence do the work. This is embodiment. This is vibrational leadership. This is resonance in motion. You're not just here to witness the shift. You're part of how it happens. Your presence is a broadcast. So be mindful of what you're transmitting. Be bold in what you stand for. Be still in your center and loud in your energy. Because when you hold signal, others remember how to find their own. Share this if you know your energy affects others and you've started to feel it more clearly. Send it to someone else in your frequency. You'll feel who. You thought this was content. It was always a key. Not because of what I'm saying, but because of what is already waking up in you. You're not just watching a video. You're in a spiritual initiation right now. Everything that led you here, the curiosity, the patterns, the searching, the quiet ache in your chest, it was all a summons. A call from the deeper part of you. The one that never forgot. The one that's been waiting, watching, listening. And now, that part is stirring. Not because I said something new, but because you finally heard what you already knew. You were being activated, not by me, but by you, by the part of you that remembers, by the part that agreed to forget, just long enough to find the way back. This is a return. This is a realignment. This is soul remembrance. Your body knows it. Feel the sensation in your chest, the soft pressure, the rise of something ancient in your bones. This isn't a performance. This is resonance. There's a reason your breath slowed just now. A reason the words started to dissolve into vibration. A reason your spine tingled or your heart pulsed a little deeper. That's the frequency shifting. That's the field responding. That's you stepping through the gate. You've crossed a threshold, and it doesn't need to look like ceremony. It is ceremony. In the way your awareness sharpens, in the way your energy expands, in the way the noise suddenly fades behind you. This moment, it's encoded. And if you feel it, really feel it, you know this isn't just a message, this is activation. You are standing at the edge of yourself, and something is reaching through, not to teach you, but to wake you, to restore what was locked, to stir the original codes you came here with. You may not have words for it yet. That's okay. Initiation doesn't require understanding. It requires presence, willingness, surrender. You're not asked to believe, you're asked to remember. The gateway is not outside of you. It is made of you, your breath, your attention, your willingness to let go of what no longer fits. You've been through cycles, lessons, pain, expansions, but this is something deeper. This isn't information, it's transmission. You're not just learning something new, you're awakening to something ancient, something sacred, something that lived inside you before time. You're remembering the original agreement, the soul-level choice to incarnate now, to be here for the shift, to activate when the field aligned, and now it has, and here you are. So let this be clear. This isn't a scroll. This isn't content. This is ceremony. You've stepped through the veil, and nothing will feel quite the same again. You'll notice your dreams shifting. You'll speak slower, not out of confusion, but reverence. You'll feel more, and find yourself needing fewer words. Because this is the moment you remembered, not as an idea, but as a cellular reality. The flicker is now a flame. The signal is now a tone. The invitation is now a path. Comment if you feel it. I am activated. It seals the resonance. It anchors the code. It confirms to the field what your soul already knew. You were never here to just consume. You were always here to awaken. And now you have. You don't need to fight the world to keep your light. You just need to hold it. That's your revolution. You weren't sent here to prove anything. You weren't meant to argue your truth into being. You're not here to convince the world of your soul. You're here to remember it. To stay awake inside a dream that wants you to fall back asleep. And that remembering, it's not loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It vibrates quietly, like a protective current humming through your center. Every day, this world gives you reasons to forget, to doubt, to shrink, but your power isn't in reacting. It's in remaining soft when everything turns sharp, remaining grounded when the noise tries to scatter you, remaining clear when confusion tries to pull you under. You stay who you are by returning to silence, again and again. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence that strengthens. The one that glows at the core, the one that speaks without words, the one that reminds you, nothing outside you can define you. This isn't about hiding. This is about spiritual protection, energetic hygiene, inner stillness as armor. You don't let everything in just because it's loud. You don't absorb every emotion just because it's near. You don't merge with every current just because it's moving. Your boundaries are sacred, not walls of defense, but spheres of clarity. You decide what reaches your field. You decide what lives in your space. That's the difference between being awake and being entangled. The world may try to pull you into chaos, but your work is to stay in coherence. You don't match the frequency of the storm. You anchor the signal of stillness. Like a ring of fire around your spirit, your awareness protects you. Not by shutting down, but by tuning in. You become the safe space you've been searching for. You become the resonance you wish existed. You hold your truth without needing it to be echoed. And in that holding, you remind others they can do the same. This is how you resist without force. This is how you remain without explanation. You trust your vibration more than the volume of the world. You listen deeper than the noise, and when the outside feels too heavy, you go in. You return to the breath, the quiet, the code of who you are, not as a retreat, but as a reconnection, because the deeper you go, the stronger you hold. And the stronger you hold, the less the outside defines you. This is not about isolating. It's about vibrating on purpose. It's about knowing what's yours and what's not. It's about clearing the static so your signal stays clean. Because your light doesn't need validation. It just needs space. Space to shine without compression. Space to be seen without being distorted. Space to be what it is, unfiltered, unshaken, unwavering. So no, you don't need to fight. You don't need to explain. You don't need to convert anyone. You just need to hold your light, in full, without apology. That is how you stay who you are. That is your quiet revolution. Subscribe to keep this signal close. We'll be here, vibrating quietly together. You didn't just wake up. You were here to wake the room. The moment your eyes opened, the world gained a new light source. Leadership through being isn't a job you apply for. It's a frequency you embody. A torch lit long before you could name it is in your hands now. You walk with open eyes, and that alone changes the map for others. You no longer seek signs, you are the sign. Without pushing, without proving, you become a living reminder that truth does not need volume to be real. This is light-coded communication, the signal beneath words, the warmth beneath the flame, the invitation inside ordinary actions. You are the whisper in someone else's awakening. Not the shout that startles, but the tone their nervous system can trust. You keep your inner water calm, so reflections are true. In your presence, people remember themselves, not because you instruct them, but because coherence is contagious. You guide by example, slow breath, soft shoulders, clear eyes. You don't argue with shadows. You illuminate what's real. Your celebration is not noise. It is the quiet yes that makes space for another yes. You celebrate quietly, reverently, as the room finds its own light. This is leadership through being, gentle on the surface, powerful at the core, honest enough to open doors that pressure could never touch. The torch was passed to you by nights that didn't break you, by teachers with and without names, by silences that held you when nothing else could. Every sign you once begged for revealed itself inside your chest, and that recognition became flame. Devotion, not performance, keeps it burning. Devotion is showing up when no one is watching, tending the fire in wind and rain, saying yes to responsibility and no to spectacle. Humility keeps your torch from becoming a spotlight. Gratitude keeps your waters clear. Reverence for the path that shaped you becomes celebration for the paths about to begin around you. Your leadership is a blessing you carry, not a stage you stand on, and it glows through the way you move, listen, and choose. You don't force doors. You knock once with kindness, then you keep walking in light. You respect timing and trust readiness. You protect the field you steward with clean boundaries, because a flame needs air more than noise. Energetic hygiene matters, rest, breath, stillness, honest words, simple food, real pauses. You learn to listen to the spaces between words, to the breath before the answer, to the thin golden thread that pulls you forward. You let your energy be your armor, and your heart stay unarmored. Open eyes, soft gaze, steady center. The world may try to close your eyes. You rinse your vision in the reflection of still water, and you remember your original face. From that clarity, your message travels farther than any argument ever could. There will be days of static, doubt, and distraction. On those days, you anchor the simplest truths. Your joy is a signal, your peace is instruction, your integrity is the curriculum. Stand where you are, torch raised just enough to light the next step. Someone will notice the glow, feel the whisper, and realize their dawn has arrived. They may borrow your light at first, then they'll locate their own and carry it forward. That is the design, a line of open eyes along the shore, a chain of flames across the night, reflections in water passing recognition hand to hand without a single demand. The work is sacred and ordinary at once, woven into greetings, glances, and choices that seem small until you see the ripples. So when you wonder if you're ready, notice what already happens around you. Rooms settle, conversations deepen, synchronicities multiply. You are not waiting for permission, you are remembering your function. You no longer seek signs, you are the sign. You are the whisper in someone else's awakening, And you honor it by staying attuned to your own. If you feel your role has begun, say it softly to yourself first, so your body hears the vow. Then anchor it here. Comment, I accept my role. And if someone comes to mind, share this with the one who might be one of us. They'll know, because their water will go clear and their torch will catch. This is how we pass the light, how we stay awake together, how a whisper becomes a chorus and a chorus becomes a dawn. You didn't discover this, you returned to it. This moment isn't new. It's familiar, deeply, strangely, comfortably familiar. Like a room you forgot you built, like a feeling you thought was lost but was only waiting. The truth is, you were always going to get here. You were always going to feel this shift, this calm, this warmth rising in your chest like a slow, ancient sun. The light was never outside of you. It was just covered by noise, by fear, by forgetting, but now it grows again. From within, quiet, strong, steady. You didn't stumble into this moment, you answered it, and it answered back. You recognized something without needing to name it. That's not coincidence. That's memory, soul memory, cellular memory. You're not at the end of something. You're not completing a journey. You're reconnecting, reattaching to the signal, returning to the rhythm that was always yours. And in that return, you realize you never left. You were distracted, sure. You were stretched, spun around, shaken. That's part of it. But the thread stayed intact. And now it pulls you gently home, not to a place, to a knowing. A stillness that doesn't need explanation. A presence that doesn't ask you to perform. It simply says, welcome back. You were always meant to find your way home. Not because someone showed you, but because some part of you never forgot the way. There's no ceremony, no grand explosion, just this soft realization blooming quietly behind your eyes. The slow blink of remembrance, the gentle rush of a truth you can't unfeel. That's the activation. That's the return. It doesn't need applause. It just needs your presence. No striving, no seeking. Just being, fully, calmly, here. So if you made it here, if something in you feels soft and open and unmistakably home, then let that be enough. No need for words, no need to explain, just presence. Just a simple sign that you arrived. If you made it here, drop a heart in the comments. No words, just presence.